A teenager opens fire at a school in Canada, and the cops and the media are refusing to admit the most obvious motive. Then, speaking of the liberal media, chilly day in hell, as CNN admits voter ID is popular with everyone, demolishing Democrat narratives on that. The New York Times admits it was wrong to promote marijuana, the old devil's lettuce, and ABC News admits that President Trump was one of the first people to call the cops on Jeffrey Epstein. I'm Michael Knowles. This is The Michael Knowles Show. Welcome back to the show. Congress Lady LaMonica McIver, Democrat member of Congress, has gone viral for asking the director of ICE if he's going to hell. We will get into the theology of the U.S. Congress. First, though, I want to tell you about Armra. Go to armra.com/Knowles. True self-reliance begins with taking control of your health this year. Our sponsor, Armra Colostrum, harnesses nature's original blueprint for resilience. Packed with over 400 bioactive nutrients, colostrum fortifies your gut and strengthens your immune system from the cellular level up. Look, for me, I'm not the most, into health and fitness, of course, but people very close to me are. I'm talking about sweet little Elisa. I'm talking even about Mr. Davies, okay? And they love this stuff. So much so that I think, all right, maybe I gotta check out this amazing superfood, Armra Colostrum. I'm still not going to work out, but I can at least take the colostrum pill. I can get a colostrum pill. Our bodies are under constant assault. Toxins, processed foods, relentless stress. Your gut is your first line of defense, and most supplements only address part of the problem. Armra Colostrum is different. It's a bioactive, whole food, pure concentrated bovine colostrum, sustainably sourced, calf-first sourcing. It's great. We have worked out a special offer for our audience. Receive 30% off your first subscription order. Go to armra.com/Knowles, Knowles. Enter code Knowles at checkout to get 30% off your first subscription order. armra.com/Knowles. Top story, awful story in Canada. Another school shooting. School shooting in Canada at Tumbler Ridge School in British Columbia. As of now, 9 people were killed, plus the shooter, and then 25 more were injured. 6 were killed at the school. 1 was killed on the way to the hospital. 2 were killed at a home nearby. According to The Guardian, Royal Canadian Mounted Police Superintendent Ken Floyd said the suspect's motive remained unclear. So if you're searching for information about this story, that's what you're going to find out. 9 people killed. Some of them will say 10 people killed because they're lumping in the assassin along with the victims. You'll find out that some of them died here, some of them died there, some of them died elsewhere, and you will find out that the authorities say the motive is unclear. What else do we know? Well, if you look at some other news reporting here, there was an alert that went out to people that described the suspect as a female in a dress with brown hair. Probably a lot of people see where I'm going with this. That's according to local news reports. And yet, we turn from The Guardian to CBC. CBC says officers believe they have identified the shooter, but said they will struggle to ever determine a motive for what has become one of the deadliest school shootings in Canadian history. Okay, you should have a few things putting up red flags here as you hear the reporting, as you hear the statements from the authorities. First one, the identity, the racial and sexual identity is not leading the headline. Given that, we can conclude that this is not a white guy. Well, actually, you can't quite conclude that here. You can conclude when the race and the sex are not first thing in the headline, you can conclude it's not a straight white guy who knows that he's a guy, right off the bat. When the authorities or the media either neglect to mention potential motives or say they don't really know the potential motive, you can bet that the motive is one that aligns with the left and the ideological priorities of the left. But this takes it a step further. CBC, quoting the officers, says that they will struggle ever to identify the motive. This awful shooting just happened. By the time these statements are being made, we're talking about hours since the shooting. How on earth could the officers come to the conclusion, the political authorities come to the conclusion, that they will never find the motive? What that actually signifies is that they already know the motive, or they have a pretty good hunch of it. What is that motive? You guessed it. If you have two brain cells to rub together and you're listening to this show and you're not an ardent leftist, I know there are some leftists who listen to the show. I'm very appreciative of you all. But if you have a little bit of common sense, we all know the conclusion. According to hard-to-find reports and according to reportedly members of the shooter's family, he was transgender. A boy who identified as a girl. This was not a female in a dress with brown hair. This was a male in a dress with brown hair. The guy's last name, got to give a hat tip here to Mario Nawfal, who pointed out that the social media profiles have trans colors, trans flags, trans pronouns. I think the guy's last name is Strang, like strange, almost nomen est omen. Got to give a hat tip to Libs of TikTok here, who points out that a family member has confirmed the trans thing. It's always the ones you most expect. I almost don't even want to say it anymore. This following the pattern that we saw in Minnesota recently with the attack on the Catholic school, this after the shooting that we saw in Nashville at the Presbyterian School Covenant. Trans-identifying people going in and assaulting normal people. When I say it's always the ones you most expect, there's a real moral invective here, because all of those shootings in Minneapolis, in Nashville, and in British Columbia, if these reports are true, all of those shootings could have been prevented and would have been prevented until very recently, because the people who perpetrated the shootings would have been institutionalized or placed under very serious protective care because they are manifestly insane. The proof that they're insane is that they don't even know what sex they are. Furthermore, they labor under a delusion that they are the opposite sex, a psychosexual affliction that is particularly associated with violence. Not even just in recent years. This isn't something we've discovered in the last few years, that trannies are violent. This is actually such a common theme of history that it is probably the single most frequently used psychotrope in horror movies, including in the movie Psycho, by the way. And Silence of the Lambs, drawing from Ed Gein. The psychologically depraved, confused, demented shooter having this particular issue. All could have been predicted and stopped. Now, what some people are going to say, including the squishy people in the middle and on the left, they say, well, Michael, hold on. Look, yes, it's true. A disproportionate number of these shootings are carried out by trans-identifying people. Relative to their proportion of the population, it's an insanely outsized portion. Yeah, that's true. But look, come on. Are you saying that all trans-identifying people are crazy and should be viewed as potential threats? Yeah. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. And that is how society viewed these people until very, very recently. And very recently, we have tried to disabuse ourselves of this perfectly just and justified prejudice, and they've killed a lot more people. How could I forget? Not just Nashville, not just Minneapolis, not just now in British Columbia, many more examples to cite. The most prominent political assassination of our lifetimes, the assassination that just took place less than 6 months ago, the assassination of one of the great leaders of the American right, Charlie Kirk, carried out by a guy who I don't think he identified as trans himself, but his furry boyfriend certainly did. You don't need Sherlock Holmes to figure this one out, okay? the people, the particular subset of people who are particularly divorced from reality, who constantly are threatening violence against normal people, carry it out. Arthur Conan Doyle passed over that story because it's so obvious to everyone except the media and the authorities. The authorities whose job it is to keep us safe and to maintain order and to effect justice. The authorities who say they're never going to figure out the motive. It's a shooting just like all the other ones, but we'll never figure out the motive. So stop asking questions and don't even report on the most salient fact of the entire case. Canada, man, what a warning. What a warning. America's evil top hat, but we're seeing those same sorts of things here. Okay, now I have something nice to say about the media. If not nice, at least better than what we're seeing up in Canada. And that pertains to CNN, the New York Times, and ABC News, all of which are super lib and all of which, wittingly or unwittingly, accidentally or intentionally, just had to tell the truth. We'll get to that momentarily. First, I want to tell you about Lovebird cereal. Go to lovebirdfoods.com/Knowles. You want to know what my cereal cabinet looks like? Open up the Knowles cabinet. It's Lovebirds. That's what it is. Grab your cereal box if you do not have Lovebirds and read the ingredients. I bet you're going to see refined sugars. You're going to see red 40. You're going to see seed oils. You're going to see words that you can't pronounce. Is that food or is that a science experiment? Big Food engineered this junk to drive cravings and make money at your family's expense. The founder of Lovebird cereals took on Big Food after his daughter was born. He created a cereal he's proud to serve his family every day. Lovebird has just 7 real ingredients. It's all right on the front of the box, believe it or not. They're Honey O's, which the boys love, organic buckwheat, cassava, coconut, honey, coconut sugar, vanilla, sea salt. That's it. Real food that you can pronounce. It's organic, it's grain-free, it's gluten-free. It's packed with prebiotic fiber for gut health, no refined sugar, no lab-engineered flavors, no stevia or monk fruit that trick your body, just real ingredients. They're third-party tested, glyphosate-free, and unlike 80% of cereals, they can actually say that. Lovebird is 100% family-owned, donates 20% of profits to fighting childhood cancer. It's just a fabulous cereal, and my kids love it. Right now, if you're ready to take your breakfast back, go to lovebirdfoods.com/Knowles. Use code Knowles for 25% off your first order. You can also find Lovebird cereals at Walmart, Whole Foods, Sprouts, and major retailers nationwide. Lovebird cereal, join the real food revolution. Take back our country's health from Big Food, box by box. Folks, Valentine's Day is coming up. It's time to find out what your boyfriend, your girlfriend, your husband, your wife, your beloved actually believes. That is why we are running a Valentine's Day sale on the Yes or No Dating and Relationships Expansion Pack. Over 100 new cards for the best-selling Yes or No game. Cards like, Mr. Davies, are you there?
I'm here.
Couples should have access to each other's social media accounts. Do you think I think that couples should have access to each other's social media accounts?
Wait, am I doing what you think or are you doing what I think?
Okay, I'll do what you think. No.
I mean, I think you should, yeah.
Really?
What, do you think you should share a bank account and you know where who's spending what money and that kind of stuff?
Yeah, you should share a bank account.
So is it okay if they have access and it's troll through?
Should they share a text messaging account? Should they share a cell phone?
No, it's like a single thread.
Should they share underwear? Should they share? What do you? There's a little privacy is okay. You know what? I'll give you.
Disagree.
I'm actually surprised you. So your wife has access to your social media accounts?
No, she doesn't. But I'd be fine with it if she wanted it.
She does it. So all right, that's ridiculous. You're cheating. You're stating something that you don't live out yourself. The one point I will give you is women basically shouldn't have social media accounts.
Correct.
They can have lurker Twitter account. They can have lurker accounts. You're fine. But if your wife is posting selfies on Instagram, big red flag. You should not.
Yeah, my wife has access to my Instagram because someone should post stuff for me. That's fine.
She your assistant? What are you? She's your social media? What are
I'm busy doing this show, Michael.
Bro, I don't know. You got this. I got to probe your relationship a little. I got to probe that marriage. Folks, these are not cute questions. These are questions that decide whether the relationship survives dinner. Right now, get 25% off only through Valentine's Day. Go to dailywire.com/shop. Add the Dating and Relationships Expansion Pack to your Yes or No game. See how well you really know your beloved. dailywire.com/shop. Okay, I'm going to say something nice about the media. The media, on multiple fronts in the last couple of days, has been forced to acknowledge reality, beginning with one of the most controversial bills going through the U.S. Congress right now. It's called the SAVE Act. We got to get Mike Lee on the show again. We haven't had Mike Lee on in a while. Senator Lee, great Republican senator, has this bill. It's called the SAVE Act. What is the SAVE Act? It's the Safeguard American Voting Eligibility Act. And the act just says you need to prove that you're eligible to vote if you want to vote. Simple, right? This should be passed easily. Not only can they not get the Democrats to vote for it because the Democrats want the illegals to vote so that they can rig the elections and steal them from the American people, apparently the Republicans can't even get the Republicans to vote for this. John Thune, who is the majority leader, says there aren't anywhere close to the votes, not even close to nuking the filibuster, which would be required to get the SAVE Act through. So that idea is something, although it continues to be put out there, that doesn't have a future. Doesn't have a future. Making Americans prove that they can vote in order to vote, safeguarding in the most basic ways U.S. elections, doesn't have a future. Not just because of Democrats. Obviously, they don't want to secure our elections. Because of Republicans. So, okay, you might say, well, some of these senators, they're representing whole states, and some of those states are kind of purple, and maybe we gotta hand it to Susan Collins and Lisa Murkowski. Maybe this is really a controversial issue. The Democrats hate voter ID, and maybe it's controversial among Republicans. Right. CNN, you tell me.
The racial breakdown?
Okay, what's the racial breakdown on this, right? Because I think a lot of people make the argument that people of color, non-white Americans, have a harder time procuring a photo ID to vote. But even here, take a look here. Favorite photo ID to vote. 85% of white people favor it. 82% of Latino. 76% of black Americans favor it. So the bottom line is this. Voter ID is not controversial in this country. A photo ID to vote is not controversial in this country. It is not controversial by party, and it is not controversial by race. The vast majority of Americans agree with Nicki Minaj that, in fact, you should have a photo ID to be able to vote.
Not controversial in the least. I was even surprised by these racial polls, and actually by the partisan poll too. You see basically every Republican supports voter ID, but even go back to the top of the clip. 71% of Democrats. 71% of Democrats favor voter ID. 0% of Democrats who are in elected office support voter ID. The vast majority of Democrat voters, 71%, favor voter ID, and 95% of Republicans. Then go back to the racial one. It's a little down the clip. You have 76% of black people. This is the most reliably Democrat racial group. The group that we are told is specifically being disenfranchised by voter ID. More than 3/4 of them support voter ID. You look at Latinos, it's even higher, 82%. We're told the Latinos are being discriminated against, hard for them to get ID. And white people, close to the Latinos, 85%. Everybody supports voter ID. Except for elected Democrats, none of whom support voter ID. Why? Because they are trying to steal elections. This isn't tinfoil hat stuff, folks. This is the only way to explain the discrepancy between elected Democrats, politicians, operative activists, and ordinary voters. Basically, everyone in the country supports voter ID. The only people that don't are the ones who particularly work to run and win elections. Why could it be that they don't favor voter ID? And what you're going to hear from the establishment media is, well, actually, it's very rare for illegal aliens to vote in elections. It's very rare for people who are ineligible to vote in the elections. Right. Sure. Okay. The libs have told you a lot of lies over the years, and I'm not going to go through the litany of them. I'm not going to rehearse all of history. I just want to take you back a few months. Do you remember when the Democrats shut the government down? The government shut the government down because they wanted to try to juice their numbers before some special elections. And the Republicans came out and said, you're shutting the government down in order to give healthcare to illegal aliens. And the Democrats said, no, we are not. Uniformly, they said, no, we are not. We do not give healthcare to illegal aliens. That is not true. That's a lie. By the end of the shutdown, the Democrats were inveighing against the Republicans because they said this is so awful. Illegal aliens can't get food. They're losing their health care. They're losing their SNAP benefits. They completely contradicted themselves over the course of weeks, not of years, not even of many months, of weeks. They told you the illegal aliens don't get health care and welfare. And then they told you we have to reopen the government so that the illegal aliens can get health care and welfare again. The Democrats tell you that illegal aliens are not voting, but they are fighting tooth and nail against the vast majority of their own voters to prevent voter ID. Why? I think it might have something to do with the fact that the illegal aliens are voting. The Democrats are counting on the illegal aliens to vote. Even beyond the illegal aliens, there are plenty of other ineligible voters who are not illegal aliens, voters who maybe are bussed in from out of district, voters who maybe because of felonies or other issues are not allowed to vote. Regardless, they need to minimize ballot security measures. The only explanation for the Democrats to fight against their own voters on this issue is that they want to steal elections. If you don't get that at this point, I don't know how to help you. Now, before we move on back to reality, back to the establishment media just being flax for the Democrats, one more little brief blip of honesty here. This from ABC News. You got to hand it to them. ABC News ran this article saying that Trump told the police that everyone knew about Epstein, according to an FBI document. So this is based on the latest tranche of Epstein files that came out. And the libs are all saying, Donald Trump's in the Epstein files. It's true. Yeah, he's named. Obviously, he's like the most prominent person in the world right now and has been for 10 years. But specifically, he is named by the FBI as having called the cops on Epstein. This is not coming from the DailyWire. This is not coming from Fox News. This is not coming from Breitbart or The Blaze. Not only was it printed in ABC, here it runs on television.
This morning, a new document coming to light claims in the mid-2000s, President Trump called police about Jeffrey Epstein. Among the 3 million Epstein files released by the Department of Justice last month is a 4-page FBI report on an interview the Bureau conducted in 2019 with the man believed to be former Palm Beach Police Chief Michael Ryder. Ryder and his detectives began investigating Epstein for human trafficking in 2004. According to the document, Trump called Ryder around that time and said, "Thank goodness you're stopping him. Everyone has known he's been doing this." Ryder also says Trump said he threw Epstein out of his club, and he was around Epstein once when teenagers were present, and Trump got the hell out of there. The former police chief says Trump told him to focus on Epstein's associate, Ghislaine Maxwell, saying she is evil.
Did you have any suspicions that he was molesting young women,
No,
underage women?
I had no idea.
Trump has long denied having any knowledge of Epstein's crimes, but Ryder says Trump was one of the very first people to call when people found out that they were investigating Epstein.
Now, this is amazing spin. Because ABC News, I guess you got to give them credit, maybe, they're reporting the facts, which is that Trump was one of the first people to call the cops on Epstein. Many, many moons ago, when Bill Clinton's palling around with him and Bill Gates is palling around with him and all the elite libs in the world are palling around with Epstein, Trump calls the cops on the guy. And that's not just spin coming from the conservatives and the people who support the White House. That's coming from ABC News. They admit he was one of the first guys to call the cops on Epstein when he heard that Epstein was being investigated. Proactive measure. You got to get this guy. You got to get Ghislaine Maxwell, his madam. She's a facilitator. But ABC still has to spin it. So they go to some random press gaggle where they say, did you know the specifics of these underage girls and molesting and this and that? And Trump says, no, I didn't know all that. Now, again, even here, there's not necessarily a contradiction between, hey, I think Epstein was up to bad stuff. And, I've seen him hanging around with young girls. And now that you're investigating, I just want you to know, here's what I know. There's not necessarily a contradiction between that and did you know that Epstein was molesting these girls in this place at this time? And say, oh, I didn't know that. It's not necessarily. He obviously knew something about it, but no one ever has really denied that. Regardless, ABC News has to take, the libs are pushing this story. They say Trump, was basically like running the Epstein ring or something. There's no evidence of this at all. All the evidence is contrary to that. The evidence comes out and says, oh, he actually blew the whistle on Epstein. He actually called the cops. ABC News runs it, and then they have to spin it in a negative way. So they say, and Trump, he did the right thing. He was apparently like the only guy who did the right thing and actually blew the whistle on Epstein. But then later, he didn't talk about how he blew the whistle on Epstein. That liar. He's a liar. He said, well, how do you turn Trump alone blew the whistle on Epstein? How do you turn that into a negative story about Trump? And ABC News manages to do it, even as they are forced to run the story about how Trump did the right thing. Okay, before we go, I know I said this would be the end of my plaudits for the mainstream media. One last bit I have to get to. The New York Times vindicating your favorite podcaster yet again. You know how much I hate to say I told you so. The New York Times coming out admitting that they were wrong, that they have been wrong for many years, that marijuana is bad for you. We'll get to that momentarily. First, I want to tell you about Preborn. Go to preborn.com/Knowles, K-N-W-L-E-S. Pregnancy can arrive unexpectedly. For those facing an unplanned pregnancy, fear and uncertainty can feel overwhelming. Past decisions and abortions may carry lingering grief that is difficult to navigate alone. That is where our sponsor, Preborn, steps in. These clinics offer compassionate support without judgment, providing honest conversations, accurate information, and a safe space to process difficult emotions and explore real options. One of the most powerful tools Preborn provides is ultrasound technology. Seeing a developing baby on screen and hearing a heartbeat can bring clarity in moments of confusion. For many, that simple appointment becomes a turning point, transforming fear into hope and uncertainty into confidence. Preborn walks alongside women through every stage of their journey, offering ongoing emotional support, practical resources, and community. The impact is real. Babies are born, families are formed, and healing happens. It often begins with something as simple as an ultrasound, one moment that can change everything, and you can be a part of that change with a $28 donation to cover the cost for a mother in need. I personally support this group, and I strongly recommend that you give what you can. All donations are tax deductible. 100% of your donation goes directly to saving babies and building families. To donate securely, dial pound 250, say keyword baby. That's pound 250, keyword baby, or go to preborn.com/Knowles, K-N-W-L-E-S, preborn.com/Knowles. Folks, the Epstein files, the Alex Preddy shooting, stolen land, these are a few of the topics I debated with viral TikTok libs, Harry Sisson and Chris Mowry on the latest episode of Bar Fight. If you've not checked out the full episode, check out this teaser.
Harry! Where's Harry?
Joe Biden was one of the most productive presidents in modern American history.
We got to boot him out. I think most Americans agree with that. I think most Americans only enforce the law when I want to. What happened to no king?
You voted for a no king. You voted for a felon.
She was shot. You were just
into the
defending
floor of the
shooting
house
of Alex Preddy, right?
at a time when cops were being beaten and your daddy pardoned the cop beaters.
Well, these were some of the rowdiest audience members we've ever had. Watch the full uncensored episode on DailyWire Plus. And thank you to all of our members, because it's because of you that we can keep producing content like Bar Fight, which I love. I love this show. I've wanted to launch this show for a long time. We finally have it. It's kind of an expensive show to do, but it's worth it. It's worth it. I love it. That's what you want. You want that, the debate in person, face-to-face, not just mediated by computer screens, not just, on random college campuses. You want to bring people here. You want to actually subject these ideas to some rigor. I love it. I love it. Go check it out so that Bar Fight gets bigger and better and greater and handsomer and more beautiful guests. I love it. The New York Times. Where is it? Where is it? There it is. This is an editorial, so it's coming out from the full editorial board. It is time for America to admit that it has a marijuana problem. It's not just time for America to admit, by the way. The New York Times goes on to admit that it's time for the New York Times to admit, for the liberal establishment to admit, and for some people even on the right. There are plenty of people on the right who enjoy the old devil's lettuce. You know what I'm talking about? I'm talking about the Peruvian parsley. Do you catch my drift? I'm talking about that California cumin. Jazz cigarettes. I'm talking about pot. Some people on the right, I don't know, maybe it's because they like it. They like taking a few puffs on the left-handed cigarettes, but it's not good. The New York Times, one of the biggest promoters of legal marijuana. It says 13 years ago, no state allowed marijuana for recreational purposes. Today, most Americans live in a state that allows them to buy and smoke a joint. President Trump has continued this trend toward legalization in December by loosening federal restrictions. You will remember that when President Trump was considering that, I strongly encouraged the White House not to do it. I love what the White House has done. Trump's the best president of my lifetime, no doubt about it. I say he doesn't get it right 100% of the time. He gets it right like 98.7% of the time. Somewhere it gets very close, but this was a misstep, I felt. This editorial board has long supported marijuana legalization. In 2014, we published a 6-part series that compared the federal marijuana ban to alcohol prohibition and argued for repeal. Much of what we wrote holds up, but not all of it does. There's the admission. Much of what they wrote does not hold up, by the way. But they say, actually, though, we might have gotten it a little wrong. At the time, here's the key. At the time, supporters of legalization predicted that it would bring few downsides. In our editorials, we described marijuana addiction and dependence as relatively minor problems. Many advocates went further and claimed that marijuana was a harmless drug that might even bring net health benefits. They said legalization might not lead to greater use. Now it is clear that many of these predictions were wrong. Legalization has led to much more use. So one of the arguments made, especially by the libertarians on the right, is to say, hey, man, we need to legalize drugs because if we legalize drugs, drug use will actually go down, man. 1 second. You say, how does that work? The libertarians, they pride themselves on being so economically literate. They pride themselves on being so economically rational. And yet they don't even understand the most basic aspects of incentives and disincentives. It turns out when you legalize something, when you promote something, when you subsidize something, you get more of that thing. When you outlaw something and you discourage it and you punish it, you get less of that thing. It does not require a PhD in economics or statistics, probability, anything. It doesn't require a second-grade education to know that fact. So what did they do? They legalized pot. They had this ridiculous idea that actually use is going to go down because of the taboo will go away, and then blah, 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 blah. And they said all these things, and they weren't true. Actually, it's skyrocketed. Today, the number of U.S. residents who consume marijuana 3 days or fewer per month has gone up from about 2.5% in the year 2000 to 11 or 12% in 2023. It's like a 6x jump. 4 to 20 days per month. So you're chewing like potentially 2/3 of the month. That's gone up from about 4% in 2000 to 15%, over 3x rise in 23 years. And then number of Americans who are puffing 21 plus days per month. So for all intents and purposes, every day, maybe multiple times a day, has gone from 4% in the year 2000 to, sorry, not percentage, these are millions of Americans, but the multiples still hold, obviously, has gone from 4 million Americans to 17, 18 million. Huge number. What is that, 4x increase or more? It's just skyrocketed. So is that good? Has that led to no social problems? No, according to the New York Times, this wider use has caused a rise in addiction and other problems. Each year, nearly 2.8 million people in the U.S. suffer from cannabinoid hyperemesis syndrome, which causes severe vomiting and stomach pain. No, there's no side effects, man. It just makes you more peaceful and loving. More people have also ended up in hospitals with marijuana-linked paranoia and chronic psychotic disorders. Bystanders have also been hurt, including people driving under the influence of pot, of course. And then, I'm not even going to read the rest because the New York Times says, look, we were wrong. Everything we said was wrong. We don't want to admit that everything we said was wrong, but everything we said was wrong. And so we need to rethink this, but we shouldn't go back to criminalizing it. So they say, look, we want to admit we were totally wrong, but what's very important now is that we learn nothing from this. I think we should learn something from this. I'm glad the New York Times has been forced by reality to admit that they were totally wrong. The liberal view was totally wrong. The libertarian view was totally wrong because the libertarian view is substantially a liberal view. That's true. Now, can we just learn something from it, please? And can people please prefer something like a nice, delicious Mayflower, which just relaxes you, makes you a little sharper, a little smarter? Can we please prefer something like that for our recreation to the old Haitian oregano? Okay. Now we turn back to the issue of immigration, back to my new favorite member of Congress, Representative LaMonica McIver, a Democrat, who just asked the acting director of ICE if he's going to hell. We will delve into the theological musings of reverend, the most reverend LaMonica of U.S. Congress. Tonight, we're going live with an all-new Friendly Fire. If you've never watched one before, here's the deal. It's the only time and place you get me, Ben, Matt, Drew, all in the same place for an hour with the freedom to say exactly what we think, especially about each other. We take the biggest stories in the headlines, we discuss them, we debate them, we disagree on them a lot of the time. Yes, the live chat will be open for members, so you can jump in, be part of the conversation with us. Starts tonight at 7 p.m. Eastern. Watch it at dailywire.com or on the DailyWire Plus app. My favorite comment yesterday, once again, Drummers Workshop, Norm's Music. They didn't even send me all the comments yesterday. They knew this was going to be the winner. And Drummers Workshop, Norm's Music is probably the modal favorite commenter over the years. I've just picked him more than anyone else. And he writes, so that meme proves, this is the meme of all the Democrats in the Jungle Book or whatever in The Lion King. You know, the one that was the meme where it was Obama's head on the gorilla's body and it was supposed to be racist, but all the Democrats. Anyway. Says that meme proves that in 2020, the left was a bunch of cheetahs. Cheetahs. That's very good. Okay. Representative LaMonica McIver, how do you use your time when you have the opportunity to question the acting director of ICE?
Let me ask you some questions that you may be able to answer. Mr. Lyons, do you consider yourself a religious man?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, yes. Okay, well, how do you think Judgment Day will work for you with so much blood on your hands?
I'm not going to entertain that question.
Oh,
ma'am.
Okay, of course not. Do you think you're going to hell, Mr. Lyons?
I'm not going to entertain.
Of course not. How many government
The gentlelady will
agencies-
suspend. The
How many-
gentlelady will suspend.
Chairman?
A gentlelady will suspend. As I said, the issues we're debating here are important to ones that members feel deeply about.
Thank you,
While
Chairman.
vigorous disagreement is part of the legislative process, members are reminded that we must adhere to established standards of decorum and debate. The witnesses are here voluntarily, and I will continue to remind members that while oversight is important, aggressively attacking those witnesses personally is inappropriate and not in keeping with the traditions of our committee.
Mr. Chairman, I'm just asking a question. You guys are always talking about religion here in the Bible. I mean, it's okay for me to ask a question, right?
This is a novel pronunciation of the word ask. I know some people make fun because some people pronounce the word ask as ax. I'm going to ask you a question. Miss LaMonica goes even further. What did she say? How did she, can you just get the last few seconds there? How is she pronouncing that word?
Committee.
Mr. Chairman, I'm just asking a question.
Accent.
You guys
It's
are
like
always
accent.
talking
It's
about
not
religion.
You see, there's a subtle difference. Anyway, I'm sorry. I'm digressing. I'm being drawn. The bigger point is this Democrat member of Congress is asking the acting member of ICE if he's going to hell. And he gives a perfectly fine answer, which is, this is totally out of order. I'm not answering that question. I might have answered it if I were in his position and given the answer as I see it, which is, well, I think that I will go to heaven eventually if I die in a state of grace, in a relationship of grace with God. And I pray that I do that, and I pray for a good death, and I hope that I don't turn away from God's grace, before my death, because then I'll go to hell. That would be my answer. That's really what I believe about it. That's what Christians traditionally have believed about heaven and hell. I would have given her, in other words, a straight answer, because I don't think she's asking or any other pronunciation of that word, this question seriously. You know, Democrats will throw this stuff around. You think you're going to hell? You high and mighty, Bible-thumping religious person? You ever think about you're going to go to hell? You know that? You guys are demons. They invoke demons. They evoke this imagery of spiritual darkness. They talk about hell. Do they really believe in hell? I really believe in hell. I think hell really exists. I think that it is possible. I think God has given us freedom and sufficiently respects our freedom that we can choose eternal separation from him, which is eternal torment. I think that's a real possibility. And I dread the loss of heaven and the pains of hell. And I do not want to offend so good a God. And so I do my best as I can. I strive to remain in a relationship of grace with him, because at a very practical level, I think that the consequences of that are eternal. Does Representative LaMonica really believe that, or is this just some cheap shot about religion? Does Representative LaMonica support abortion? Just ask that question. Does Representative LaMonica support the wholesale slaughter of innocent little babies? Does she ever consider that kind of support might be leading her to hell, which might actually exist and not just be a fun little flourish for political rhetoric. I would put this right back on people. Notice how flippant people are about religion, not just on the left, but on the right too. They describe the demonic. You hear descriptions of the demonic all over our culture, on the right as well. And people are so flippant about this. They'll invoke the demonic. They'll invoke hell, but they won't follow those observations, those statements, to their logical implications. If evil exists, if demons exist, if hell exists, then God exists too, right? If God exists, he has a nature. He is being, actually. But he probably desires things, doesn't he? Probably desires things from us. If God exists, there is a moral order. There are good things and bad things. And we probably should strive to do the good things and avoid the bad things. And we should probably cooperate with God's grace. And we should probably take seriously revelation. We should probably seriously consider the implications of the incarnation, whether Jesus is who he says he is, what that means for our lives. People are very flippant about religion. And, rather than say, well, that's out of bounds, you shouldn't bring religion up in a political hearing, maybe this is a great opportunity for evangelization. Do you believe in hell, sir? I do. Do you, lady? Do you believe in hell? Let me explain to you what I think. Yeah, I think that what I am doing in enforcing the law, whether we're talking about immigration law or whatever controversial issue you hear from the left, I believe that what I am doing is just. I think it is good. I think the civil authority doesn't bear the sword in vain. I think the civil authority is there, even appointed by God for our good. And I think that it is in the interest of the United States to defend our laws justly passed by Congress, to deport the illegal aliens who are committing atrocities against Americans. I think what you're doing, Congress lady, is unjust. And if you want to get into the eternal implications of it, I think that you could be leading yourself down to hell, and you should seriously consider that. I don't think they would know what to do with that. When people invoke demonic occult imagery on the left or the right, maybe ask them like, okay, you think demons exist. That's good. Did you go to church on Sunday? Did you go to confession? Did you read your Bible? I mean, you don't need to be judgy. You got to watch out for the plank in your own eye, of course. But this is a way to actually help people. You say, look, it's good that you recognize that the devil exists, but the devil's nothing compared to God. Are you doing what God wants you to do? Look, you brought it up, lady. I'm not the Bible thumper in this. I mean, I'll thump it back, I guess, but you're the one who brought it up. So you want to take this seriously? Let's take it seriously. It wasn't just LaMonica. Representative Eric Swalwell also grilled the acting director of ICE.
Supposed to protect, or will you side with the killers bringing terror to our streets? Mr. Lyons, will you resign from ICE?
No, sir, I won't.
Why not?
Because, sir, that child that you're showing right there, the men and women of ICE took care of him when his father abandoned him and ran from law enforcement.
Time has expired.
You never should have gone
Gentleman's time has expired. I recognize the gentleman from Mississippi.
If Eric Swalwell didn't exist, we'd have to invent him. Eric Swalwell comes out and he uses this example that the liberals are always pushing and say, I've had a family member even send me this example. They say, ICE arrested a 5-year-old kid. Can you believe it? ICE arrested a 5-year-old kid. I said, oh, that's interesting. Well, I wonder why they did that. Let me Google this for 3 seconds. Oh, ICE detained the 5-year-old kid because his illegal alien criminal deadbeat father abandoned him on a freezing cold sidewalk. So ICE had 2 options: leave the little kid alone in the freezing cold on a sidewalk, or take care of the kid while they go get his deadbeat dirtbag father. What do you think ICE should have done? And that's what the acting director says to Representative Swalwell. Swalwell's got nothing on this. He has absolutely nothing. So he just comes back and goes, well, the father never should have been arrested in the first place. Yes, he should have, according to the law passed by the government body that you're a member of. Is that really now their argument? We should not arrest illegal aliens? I guess it is. I had this bar fight with Harry Sisson and Chris Mowry. And one of the funniest moments, the clip was going viral on social media. I was sitting there, I said, guys, I just want to be very clear about this. We can debate the morality and potential future laws. I just want, right now, should we deport the illegals? The law says that we should. It was passed by Congress. Members of both parties have voted for it. Borders are what delineate a political community and the majority of Americans voted for this in 2024 specifically. Should we deport the illegals? And you know what answer I got? Humana, well, it's actually really nuanced. It's actually really complex. I got the Swalwell answer. Because what they actually, Swalwell is in a way more honest. Because he basically just comes out and says, no, we shouldn't. We should ignore the voters. We should ignore the law. We should let the criminals just fester on the streets. We should allow them to bring in fentanyl to kill 75,000 Americans a year and to rape Americans and to murder Americans and to traffic human beings and potentially to vote in our elections. And we should just do that. We should just do that. Even though most Americans oppose that, that's going to help us, the Democrat Party. So we're going to do it. Most Americans think you should show an ID to vote, but it hurts the Democrat Party if you tamp down on voter fraud, so we're going to oppose it. Okay. All right, that's fine. So much more to say, because I want to beat up on some Republican members of Congress too. But I don't have time. It's Work from Home Wednesday, and I'm so excited about this one. If I know I was a little late in assigning the homework this week. We used to have Woke Wednesday, but I hated that. It was such lazy slop. I'm never going to get off the producer's case about that. So instead, I changed it to Work from Home Wednesday. I think working from home is fake, and I even when I've worked from home myself, it's like mostly fake, especially if you have kids running around. And anyway, the one kind of working from home I really like is this day, because I get to assign some kind of reading, some kind of music, something that I really like. This is the esoterica. This is for the crème de la crème. And this week, we're going over one of my favorite stories, Sir Arthur Conan Doyle's Adventure of the Musgrave Ritual, my favorite Sherlock Holmes story. If you're not a member, you don't get it. And this story is profound in what it means to be a conservative. If you want to see it, you got to go subscribe to Daily Wire. Download the app, get the app on your TV, subscribe. The show continues now. Become a member, use code Knowles, Canada, WLAS at checkout for 2 months free on all annual plans.
What was it like, Merlin, to be alone with God?
Is that who you think I was alone with?
Merlin, I knew your father. I am yet convinced that he was not of this world.
All men know of the great Taliesin.
Who am I, Father, that the gods should war for my soul?
Princess Garrus, savior of our people.
I know what the bull god offered you. I was offered the same.
And?
There is a new power at work in the world. I've seen it. A god who sacrifices what he loves for us.
We are each given only one life, Singer.
No. We're given another. I learned of Yezu the Christ, and I have become his follower.
He's waiting on a miracle, and I think you can give him one.
Trust in Yezu. He is the only hope for men like us.
Fate of Britain never rests in the hands of the great light.
Great light, great darkness. Such things mattered to me then.
What matters to you now, Mistress of Lies?
You, nephew.
The sword of a high king.
How many lives must be lost before you accept the power you were born to wield? So clinging to the promises of a god who has abandoned you.
I cannot take up that sword again.
You know what you must do.
Great light, forgive me.
The time has come to be reborn.